Sarah had always prided herself on reading people well. Growing up with three brothers who constantly tried to pull fast ones on her, she developed what she called her bullshit detector early in life. So when Maya-chan walked into the marketing firm, where Sarah worked as a senior account manager, something about her immediately fell off. It wasn't anything obvious. Maya was polished, professional, spoke with the kind of confidence that came from expensive education and good breeding. Her resume was impeccable. MBA from Wharton, previous experience at 2 Fortune 500 companies, references that checked out perfectly. On paper, she was exactly what their growing agency needed for the creative director position. But Sarah noticed the small things. How Maya's eyes darted away when discussing her previous work. The way she deflected personal questions with perfectly crafted responses that revealed nothing. The expensive clothes that seemed slightly wrong for someone supposedly coming from corporate America. Sarah mentioned her concerns to their boss, David, but he was already smitten with Maya's ideas and presentation style. "You're being paranoid," David said, waving off Sarah's concerns. "She's exactly what we need to take this company to the next level. Besides, jealousy doesn't look good on you." The comment stung because Sarah knew it contained a grain of truth. She had been hoping for a promotion to creative director herself, and Maya's arrival had effectively killed that possibility. But Sarah genuinely believed her instincts about Maya were correct, regardless of her personal disappointment. Maya started work on a Monday in March, and within 2 weeks, she and Sarah had become unlikely friends. It began with small things, Maya asking Sarah for lunch recommendations, seeking advice about the best gym in the area, complaining about how difficult it was to make friends in a new city. Sarah found herself drawn to Maya's apparent vulnerability beneath the polished exterior. "I've always struggled with female friendships," Maya confided one evening over drinks. "Growing up, I was always the odd one out. Too serious, too focused on school. I never learned how to just be normal around other women." Sarah felt a surge of protective instinct. She recognized something of her younger self in Maya's words. The awkwardness, the fear of not fitting in. "Well, you got me now," Sarah said, squeezing Maya's hand across the table. "I'm not going anywhere." Over the following months, their friendship deepened rapidly. Maya seemed to crave the stability and authenticity that Sarah offered, while Sarah was fascinated by Maya's stories of her privileged upbringing and international experiences. Maya spoke of boarding school in Switzerland, summers in the Hamptons, her father's diplomatic career that had taken the family all over Asia and Europe. "You're so lucky," Sarah said one night as they walked through Central Park after dinner. "I can't imagine growing up with all those experiences. The most exotic place my family ever went was Florida." Maya laughed, but there was something hollow about it. "Lucky isn't the word I'd use. All that moving around, never really belonging anywhere, it has its downsides." Sarah began including Maya in everything. She introduced her to her friend group, invited her to family dinners, even brought her as a +1 to her cousin's wedding. Maya seemed grateful for the inclusion, but Sarah noticed she never reciprocated. There were no invitations to meet Maya's family when they supposedly visited, no introduction to friends from her previous life. "My family is complicated," Maya would say when Sarah asked. "They're not really the type you'd want to meet anyway. Very cold, very formal. You wouldn't like them." Sarah accepted these explanations because she wanted to believe in their friendship. Maya was brilliant at work, her creative campaigns winning new clients and industry recognition. She was also loyal, always defending Sarah in meetings and pushing for her to get more high-profile assignments. When Sarah went through a brutal breakup with her boyfriend of 2 years, Maya was there every night with wine and terrible movies, listening to Sarah cry and rage without judgment. "I don't know what I'd do without you," Sarah told her one night, slightly drunk and very emotional. "You're like the sister I never had." "You're my person too," Maya replied. And in that moment, Sarah believed it completely. The friendship continued to deepen over the next year. They developed inside jokes, shared clothes, planned vacations together. Maya seemed to study Sarah intently, picking up her mannerisms, her expressions, even her way of speaking. Sarah found it flattering. Imitation as the sincerest form of flattery and all that. But small inconsistencies began to pile up. Maya claimed to have attended boarding school in Switzerland, but when Sarah surprised her with a weekend trip to Vermont, where she'd booked them into a place that reminded her of Swiss chalets, Maya seemed uncomfortable and unfamiliar with references to European boarding school culture that Sarah had researched specifically for the trip. Maya spoke frequently about her father's diplomatic career, but when Sarah asked specific questions about the countries they'd lived in, Maya's answers were oddly generic. The kind of information you could find in a travel guide rather than the intimate details of someone who'd actually lived there as a child. There were other things too. Maya claimed to speak fluent Mandarin due to her family's time in China, But when they encountered a Chinese client who spoke no English, Maya suddenly developed a convenient case of stage fright and couldn't remember anything beyond basic greetings. Sarah began to feel like she was going crazy. Every time she noticed an inconsistency, Maya had a plausible explanation. The boarding school thing? Oh, I went to the American school nearby, not actually Swiss. The language issue? I haven't practiced in years. I get nervous speaking it professionally. The family stories? You know how memory works. Sometimes you remember things differently than they actually happened. Sarah wanted to believe these explanations because the alternative was too horrible to contemplate. Maya wasn't just her best friend. She was her maid of honor when Sarah got engaged to James, a kind architect she'd met through work. Maya helped plan the wedding, threw the bridal shower, and gave a toast that left everyone in tears. Sarah is the most genuine person I've ever met, Maya said, raising her glass at the reception. In a world full of people pretending to be something they're not, she's authentically, beautifully herself. That's a rare gift, and James, you're lucky to have found it. Sarah remembered feeling so moved by those words, so grateful to have found someone who truly understood her. Looking back later, she would realize that Maya's speech contained its own confession, a world full of people pretending to be something they're not. Maya had been describing herself. The unraveling began, ironically, because of Sarah's happiness. Planning her wedding had made her sentimental about friendship and family, and she decided to do something special for Maya's upcoming birthday. She wanted to create a photo album of their friendship, but she also wanted to include some pictures of Maya's childhood that she could get from her family. Sarah had never met Maya's parents despite 3 years of friendship, but she'd heard enough stories to feel like she knew them. Maya's mother was supposedly a former model turned philanthropist, her father a career diplomat. They lived in an elegant apartment on the Upper East Side, traveled constantly, and maintained a kind of social calendar that Maya claimed to find exhausting. Getting their contact information proved surprisingly difficult. Maya didn't have her parents programmed into her phone under normal labels. No mom or dad entries that Sarah could spot. When Sarah finally convinced Maya to give her their number for the surprise, Maya seemed reluctant. They're very private people, Maya warned. Don't be surprised if they seem cold or don't want to participate in your project. Sarah called the number Maya had given her, expecting to reach Maya's mother. Instead, she got a pleasant woman named Linda who seemed confused by the request. I'm sorry, dear, but I think you have the wrong number. I don't have a daughter named Maya. Are you sure you have the right family? Sarah double-checked the number and called again, thinking she'd misdialed. Same result. She tried the number Maya had given her for her father. It went to a business, a small accounting firm in Queens where no one had ever heard of anyone named Chun. Sarah's hand shook as she put down the phone. There had to be an explanation. Maybe Maya had given her the wrong numbers by mistake. Maybe her parents had changed their numbers recently. Maybe they were using aliases for privacy reasons. Diplomatic families sometimes did that, didn't they? But deep down, Sarah knew. All those small inconsistencies, all those vague answers, all those deflections, they suddenly formed a clear picture. Maya had been lying about everything. Sarah spent the next week in a state of suspended disbelief, going through the motions of normal life while her mind raced. She found herself studying Maya with new eyes, looking for cracks in the facade. Now that she knew what to look for, they were everywhere. Maya's expensive clothes were always slightly out of season, as if bought at outlet stores. Her stories about exclusive restaurants and private clubs were detailed enough to be convincing, but generic enough to have been researched rather than experienced. Her knowledge of boarding school life came from books and movies, not memory. The breaking point came when Sarah decided to do some investigating. She used her marketing skills to conduct what was essentially opposition research on her best friend. What she found shattered everything she thought she knew. Maya Chin's real name was Jennifer Walsh. She'd grown up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, the daughter of a factory worker and a secretary. She'd never left the country until she was an adult. She had no MBA from Wharton. She'd taken some online business courses from a community college. Her previous employment history was a carefully constructed fiction built around temporary jobs and internships she'd embellished into executive positions. The woman Sarah had considered her closest friend, the person who'd stood beside her at her wedding and promised to be the godmother to her future children, was a complete fraud. Sarah confronted Maya on a Thursday evening in Maya's apartment. The same apartment Maya claimed her parents helped her afford, but which Sarah now suspected was probably rent-controlled or subsidized housing that Maya had dressed up with clever decorating and a few expensive pieces. I know, Sarah said simply, walking into Maya's living room without preamble. Maya looked up from her laptop, and for just a moment, her carefully constructed mask slipped. Sarah saw something raw and desperate in her eyes before the professional smile snapped back into place. Know what? Maya asked, but her voice lacked its usual confidence. I know your real name is Jennifer Walsh. I know you're from Scranton. I know you never went to Wharton, never worked at those companies, never lived overseas. I know everything. Maya's face went through a series of expressions: denial, anger, calculation, before settling into something Sarah had never seen before: defeat. How long have you known? Maya asked quietly. I've suspected for a while. I've known for certain for 3 days. Maya nodded slowly, as if she'd been expecting this moment for 3 years. What are you going to do? Sarah had been asking herself the same question. The betrayal was so complete, so fundamental, that she felt like she'd been living in an alternate reality. Every memory of their friendship was now contaminated by the knowledge that it had been built on lies. I don't know, Sarah admitted. I loved you. I trusted you with everything. You were my maid of honor, Maya. Jennifer. Whoever you are. I'm still the same person, Maya said desperately. The friendship was real. My feelings for you were real. I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? Sarah asked. Was any of it real? When you comforted me after my breakup, when you helped plan my wedding, when you told me you loved me like a sister, was any of that true? Maya was crying now, the first time Sarah had ever seen her lose complete control. Yes. God, yes, it was all true. The person I am with you. That's the person I want to be. That's who I really am underneath all the lies. But you lied about everything, Sarah said, her own voice breaking. Your entire identity is a fabrication. I don't even know your real name. How can I believe anything you say? Because you know me, Maya pleaded. You know the real me better than anyone ever has. The background stuff, the family stories, the education, that was just packaging. The person who stayed up all night when you were sick, who fought for you at work, who cried at your wedding, that was real. Sarah wanted to believe her. Part of her still loved the woman she'd thought Maya was. But she couldn't separate the real person from the lies anymore. Everything was contaminated. Why? Sarah asked. Why did you do this? Maya was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was small and tired. Because I wanted to be someone else. I wanted to be the kind of person who deserved friends like you, who belonged in places like our office, who could fit into the world I wanted to be part of. Jennifer Walsh from Scranton wasn't good enough. She never would have gotten hired, never would have been invited to your cousin's wedding, never would have had someone like you choose her as a friend. That's not true, Sarah said. But even as she said it, she wondered if it was. Would she have been drawn to Jennifer Walsh the way she'd been drawn to Maya Chun? Would she have seen past the rough edges and the insecurity to the intelligent, loyal person underneath? It is true, Maya said with bitter certainty. You fell in love with the idea of me. Exotic, sophisticated, mysterious. If I'd walked in as Jennifer from Scranton with a community college education and a fake resume, you would have seen right through me and written me off immediately. Sarah realized with sick certainty that Maya was probably right. The attraction of their friendship had been partly based on the differences between them. Sarah's authenticity contrasted with Maya's glamour, Sarah's stability balancing Maya's cosmopolitan experience. Without the fabricated background, would Sarah have looked twice at her? So what happens now? Maya asked. Sarah had been dreading this question because she already knew the answer. There was only one thing she could do, one way to make the betrayal complete. I'm going to tell David the truth about your qualifications, Sarah said. You're going to lose your job. Maya's face went white. Sarah, please. I know I lied, but I've done good work. The clients love me. The campaigns are successful. I've earned my place there. You earned it under false pretenses. Every promotion, every raise, every piece of recognition, it's all based on lies. David has a right to know who he really hired. This will destroy me, Maya whispered. Not just the job. When this gets out, I'll never work in marketing again. My whole life will be over. Your whole life is already a lie, Sarah said, hating how cruel she sounded but unable to stop herself. Maybe it's time to start over with the truth. Sarah left Maya's apartment that night, knowing she would never see her friend again. The next morning, she requested a meeting with David and laid out everything she discovered. David's reaction was exactly what Sarah had expected: shock, anger, and immediate termination. Maya cleaned out her desk while the office watched in confused silence. She didn't try to defend herself or explain. She just packed her things with the same quiet dignity she'd shown when Sarah confronted her and walked out without looking back. Sarah thought she would feel vindicated, but instead she felt hollow. She destroyed the person she'd loved most in the world, and even though Maya had betrayed her first, the victory felt poisonous. The story spread through their industry within days. Maya Chun, the rising star creative director, was exposed as Jennifer Walsh, a fraud who'd built her career on fabricated credentials. The narrative was perfect for industry gossip, mysterious, scandalous, and satisfying in its moral clarity. But Sarah found herself defending Maya in conversations, which confused everyone including herself. She did good work, Sarah would say when colleagues made jokes about Maya's deception. Her ideas were brilliant. Her campaigns were successful. Maybe the background was fake, but the talent was real. Why are you defending her? Her friend Rebecca asked one day over lunch. She lied to everyone, including you. She made fools of all of us. Sarah couldn't explain that defending Maya felt like defending the friendship they'd shared, the parts of it that had been genuine. She couldn't make anyone understand that loving someone and destroying them could exist simultaneously in the same heart. 6 months later, Sarah ran into Maya at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. Maya looked different, younger somehow, less polished but more real. She was dressed simply, her hair natural instead of styled, her makeup minimal. She looked like Jennifer Walsh, Sarah realized. "Hi," Maya said quietly, approaching Sarah's table with obvious nervousness. "Hi," Sarah replied. "Can I sit?" Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. They sat in silence for several minutes before Maya spoke. "I got a job," she said. "Nothing fancy. I'm working for a small nonprofit in Queens, helping them with their communications. They know everything about my background, the real background. I told them the truth from the beginning." "That's good," Sarah said, and meant it. "I'm going by Jennifer now. Jen, actually. It's taking some getting used to, but it feels right." Sarah studied her former friend's face, looking for traces of the Maya she'd known. They were there, but softer now, more integrated with whoever Jennifer Walsh actually was. "I'm sorry," Jennifer said suddenly. "I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. Not just for lying about my background, but for putting you in the position where you felt like you had to destroy my life to get justice." "I didn't want to destroy your life," Sarah said, surprised by how much she meant it. "I just wanted the truth." "I know, and you were right to tell David. I don't blame you for that. I blame myself for putting us both in that situation." They sat quietly again, two women who had once known everything about each other and now felt like strangers. "Do you think we could ever be friends again?" Jennifer asked finally. Sarah had been asking herself the same question for months. She missed Maya, or rather, she missed the parts of Maya that had been real. She missed the late-night conversations, the inside jokes, the feeling of having someone who understood her completely. But she didn't know if she could ever trust Jennifer Walsh the way she trusted Maya Chun. "I don't know," Sarah said honestly. "I don't know if I could trust you again. And I don't know if you can forgive me for what I did to you." "I already forgive you," Jennifer said quickly. "You didn't do anything wrong. You just refused to be complicit in my lies anymore." "But I destroyed you," Sarah said, voicing the guilt she'd been carrying for months. "I could have confronted you privately, given you a chance to come clean yourself. Instead, I went straight to David. I wanted to hurt you the way you'd hurt me." Jennifer was quiet for a moment, considering this. "Maybe," she said finally, "but maybe I needed to be destroyed. Maybe that was the only way I was ever going to stop lying and start being real." Sarah looked at her former friend, this woman who had been Maya and was now Jennifer, and realized that revenge was more complicated than she'd thought. She'd set out to punish Maya for her deception, but in destroying Maya, she'd also freed Jennifer. The question was whether Jennifer was someone worth knowing. "I have a confession," Jennifer said, interrupting Sarah's thoughts. "I used to study you, your mannerisms, your expressions, the way you talked about things. I was trying to figure out how to be authentic like you were." "I know," Sarah said. "I noticed. But the thing is, I learned something from watching you all those years. I learned that being authentic isn't about having the right background or the right education or the right family. It's about being honest about who you are, even when who you are isn't impressive." Sarah felt tears starting to form. "And who are you, Jennifer Walsh?" Jennifer smiled, and for the first time since Sarah had known her, the smile looked completely real. "I'm someone who grew up poor and ashamed of it. Someone who wanted so badly to belong somewhere that she convinced herself lies were better than truth. Someone who learned what real friendship looked like by watching you, and then betrayed that friendship because she was too scared to be vulnerable." She paused, gathering courage for what came next. "I'm also someone who loved you like a sister, even while I was lying to you. Someone who meant every word when I said you were my person. Someone who would do anything to earn your trust again, even though I know I probably never will." Sarah wiped away the tears that had started falling despite her attempts to hold them back. This conversation was more honest than anything she and Maya had ever shared, and it was devastating. "I don't know if we can be friends again," Sarah said. "But I'm glad to meet you, Jennifer Walsh. I think I would have liked you from the beginning, if you'd given me the chance." They finished their coffee in comfortable silence, two women who had loved and betrayed and destroyed each other, trying to figure out if redemption was possible. As they prepared to leave, Jennifer handed Sarah a small wrapped package. "What is this?" Sarah asked. "It's the photo album you were trying to make for my birthday. I finished it myself, with real pictures this time. Pictures of Jennifer Walsh growing up in Scranton, looking nothing like the stories Maya, Chin used to tell." Sarah unwrapped the album carefully. The photos inside showed a young girl with dreams bigger than her circumstances, a teenager working part-time jobs to pay for community college, a young woman arriving in New York with nothing but ambition and a willingness to reinvent herself. The last photo in the album was one Sarah had taken without realizing its significance. Maya and Sarah laughing together at Sarah's wedding. Maya's professional mask dropped for just a moment, showing something raw and real and beautiful. "This is who I really am," Jennifer said, pointing to the last photo. "Not the lies about boarding school and diplomats, but this moment when I forgot to pretend and just let myself love my best friend." Sarah closed the album and hugged Jennifer tight, both women crying now for the friendship they'd lost and the possibility of something new and honest taking its place. "I still don't know if I could trust you," Sarah whispered. "I know," Jennifer whispered back. "But maybe we can start small. Maybe we can try being honest with each other and see what happens." Sarah pulled back and looked at Jennifer's face, really looked at her, seeing past 3 years of deception to the scared, ambitious, loving person underneath. "Hi," Sarah said, extending her hand formally. "I'm Sarah Mitchell. It's nice to meet you." Jennifer laughed through her tears and shook Sarah's hand. "Hi, I'm Jennifer Walsh, but my friends call me Jen." "Well, Jen," Sarah said, "I think this might be the beginning of a real friendship." They walked out of the coffee shop together, two women who had learned the hard way that love and betrayal could coexist, that destruction sometimes led to rebirth, and that the truth, however painful, was always better than the most beautiful lie.